Should you believe the hype about living in Lincoln Park, Chicago? Well, if you hate diverse and unique architecture, tons of green space, close proximity to the Lakefront Trail in Lake Michigan, a plethora of things to do every single day, or everyday conveniences literally steps away from your front door, well then living in Lincoln Park, Chicago is definitely not worth it for you. If you don't want access to above average public schools and some of the best private schools in the entire country, or the ability to walk or use public transportation versus having to have a car, well then Lincoln Park is definitely not for you. But if you like all of these things and much more, well then living in Lincoln Park, Chicago may be the best place for you to call home. On today's video, I'll be breaking down Lincoln Park, Chicago and whether or not it is still worth it to live here. If you've been watching this channel, then as you know, I've been a huge Lincoln Park supporter ever since I moved to Chicago back in 2013. For the last 11 years that I've lived here, I've lived in Chicago for 9 out of those 11. And if I could do it all over again, I never would have left for those other 2. I absolutely love living in Lincoln Park, Chicago. And today we're gonna break down a few of the different reasons why you may or may not think that living in Chicago is worth it in 2024. We're gonna dive into a few key categories that you may be considering before making a move to Lincoln Park, such as cost of living, housing, transportation, things to do, and finally, we're gonna round it out with the schools. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan Pyle and I'm your go-to Chicago real estate agent. My team and I have been servicing the city of Chicago for the last 11 years, and we get phone calls, texts, and emails from people just like yourself every single day and every single week, thinking about making a move to Chicago or moving around and wanting to buy or sell a home here in Chicago. And so we'd be honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. If you have any questions or you want to start either of those processes, feel free to just text the number on the screen and a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours. Additionally, if you're not quite ready to reach out, well, we have a free bi-weekly newsletter that we put out. You can just find the link down in the description. You can sign up for that. You can unsubscribe at any time if this isn't the information you're looking for. That's a good way for you to just start getting in your inbox every 2 weeks, everything related to Chicago. Lastly, if this has been helpful for you, please do us a favor, share this with a friend, like the video, comment, put any other questions that you have down in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you can be the first to know about all things living in Chicago. All right, so before we get into the first topic, which will be cost of living, let's just go a little bit high level and let's talk about Lincoln Park rankings. And this is coming from niche.com. And so Niche ranks thousands of neighborhoods based on key statistics from the US Census and expert insights. And Chicago, and specifically Lincoln Park, Chicago, comes in at number 10 out of 93 for the best neighborhoods to raise a family in Chicago. Also, they take the number 13 spot out of 93 for the best neighborhoods for young professionals in Chicago, and they come in at number 14 out of 93 for the best neighborhoods in general to live in Chicago. So even though niche.com reported these rankings, I think that it's very valuable and helpful to actually know what the locals of Lincoln Park are saying. And so I took this information from areavibes.com, and this is all about what do the locals think about Lincoln Park. Well, 78% agreed that Lincoln Park was family friendly. 89% agreed that yards are well kept. 78% think that there are friendly neighbors. 89% say that the streets have sidewalks. 67% say that public transit is accessible. 78% claim that there are lots of parks. 78% also say that it's safe at night. 78% say that it's a quiet area. 100% say it's walkable to grocery stores. 100% say it's walkable to restaurants. 78% pet friendly, and 78% sense of community. And so if I'm looking at these stats, I would say most of these are 70% or higher, with some of these being as high as 100%. And so the locals that live here, obviously they live here for a reason. So whether their opinions are valid to you or not, this is just what some of the locals think about living here. And so I would say that this gets the check of approval. You also have the livability score coming in at 80 out of 100. So you have amenities at A+, you have commute at A+, cost of living is an F. We'll get to that in a second. I know it's not something that we're super proud of, but for all the beautiful things and incredible things you get, well, it's gonna come with a little bit of a cost. Crime is at a B-, employment at an A+, health at a B, housing an A+, and schools is also an A+. And lastly, just to re-spark your memory, the boundaries of Lincoln Park considered to be you have North Avenue on the southern border, you have the Expressway on the western border, Diversey Avenue on the northern border, and then Lake Michigan on the eastern border. So So what's it actually going to cost you to live in Lincoln Park? Well, let's just dive into the cost of living. Well, so the cost of living in Lincoln Park is actually about 77% higher than living in anywhere else in Illinois. So yes, that is slightly a premium. And if we're taking the national cost of living index at 100% throughout the United States, Chicago in general comes in 14% higher than the national average, while Lincoln Park is actually 70% more expensive than the national average. The median household income for residents living in Chicago comes in at $149,773, so just under $150,000 a year, where the national average is $75,000 and some change. You have 18% of the households claiming that they are families with children, and you can see the education levels here. Master's degree or higher, 41%, bachelor's degree, 44%, and then some college or an associate's degree at 9%. So while Lincoln Park has a higher cost of living than the national average, and as well as just other areas and neighborhoods in Chicago, like I said, you pay for where you live, you pay for the conveniences, you pay for the things to do, the great public schools and private schools, and all the other things that you're gonna get by being a resident of Lincoln Park. So this is only for you to decide whether it's worth it from a cost of living standpoint. For myself, I decide year after year that that extra cost to live here is 100% worth it. So moving into some other things you may consider, well, let's talk about housing. So whether you're renting or owning, I'll break down a couple of the details on what it's gonna cost you to do so. The median home value in Lincoln Park, Chicago is coming in just under $800,000. And this is in comparison to the national average of $282,000 roughly. Your median rent in Lincoln Park comes in just over $2,000 at $2,044 a month, compared to the national average at $1,268 per month. And then from a rent versus own comparison, 54% of people rent their homes and 46% are homeowners. So obviously these are just median home values and median rents, but for your specific situation, whether you're looking for a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, a townhome, maybe you're even looking to buy a single family home, or you might even be in that luxury space in the multi-million dollars. Obviously, each of you are gonna have a different situation. And so for you to just kind of consider Lincoln Park, you can look at these median numbers, but we can dive into more details and you can get a better look for yourself on what is actually available as it relates to homes for sale in Chicago. I have a link down in the description that you can click on. You don't have to put anything in. There's no obligations. And this is gonna give you the current 200 or so homes that are for sale in Chicago right now at the time of this video. And so click that link. You can see on the screen right now, you can get an idea of what that link looks like if you click on it, but feel free to go check those out. If you want to create an account on our Compass platform, feel free to do so. If you want to reach out about any of these specific properties, you can do that as well. So now that we talked about the cost of living and the housing in Lincoln Park, Chicago, let's talk about some of the things to do and why so many people decide to still live here, even though the cost of living and the housing is slightly expensive. Well, first up, lakefront trail. You've heard me time and time again, you have close proximity to the lake and the lakefront trail. Obviously, if you're more on the east side of Lincoln Park, you're gonna be within even closer proximity. But even if you're on the west side of Lincoln Park, close to the expressway, I actually live probably about, maybe a mile from the far western side, maybe even less than that. And it takes me about a mile and a half, or for me, that's about, a 10 to 12 minute run to get to the lakefront. And I do that pretty much every single day, at least 4 or 5 times a week. And so even though I'm a little bit further, being in Lincoln Park in general, just the way that the actual area is laid out in the Chicago kind of ecosystem and in the map structure, you're actually gonna be pretty close to the lake. And so being able to take advantage of the lakefront trail and Lake Michigan, whether it's getting out onto a boat or just swimming, walking your dog, taking a stroll or running, biking, whatever it is, you have access to that being in Lincoln Park, which is, I think, probably one of the primary reasons so many people like to live in Lincoln Park. Additionally, you have literally a plethora of places to eat and places to dine. So a couple recommendations that I have is if you want good Chicago pizza, you can obviously go to Lou Malnati's, which they have a location in Lincoln Park. Also, something that's a little bit more historical, I've talked about on this video before. So on the very east side of Lincoln Park, you have a place called the Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder. This is a place that if you're gonna go, you need to put in reservation, get there early. There's usually a line out the door, but this is definitely a classic Chicago staple that you want to check out. Also, if you're a coffee person like me, I need at least 2 coffees, sometimes three shots of caffeine per day. Well, there's Starbucks, there's a place called Cup Town, There's a place called Left Coast that I like to go to. There's really just a variety of different types of coffee places, whether you want that more national mainstream coffee like Starbucks, or if you want something a little bit more boutique. Well, you're not gonna ever run out of options for coffee in Lincoln Park. And most of these are gonna be within walking distance from wherever you live. Now, if you wanna get out and you wanna take your dog to the park, or your kids, or maybe you just wanna get out and live a little bit more of an active lifestyle, well, the great thing about Lincoln Park is you have that beautiful combination of that dense urban feel, but in Lincoln Park, you get a little less density and you get some more parks and some green spaces and different things like that that are thrown in, which really make it feel like more of a neighborhood versus living downtown more in the city center, where you're gonna have more high rises, more concrete. Lincoln Park really is known for having a variety of different parks. And obviously this includes Lincoln Park itself on the far east side of the city, but you also have different parks throughout. You have Wrightwood Park, you have Oz Park, which is kind of in the center of Lincoln Park. You have little private neighborhood parks and playgrounds. And of course, it's not necessarily a park, but you have the Lincoln Park Zoo that you can go and check out as well. Now, if you wanna go shopping, well, one of my favorite places to do so is to take a stroll down Armitage Avenue. And so Armitage Ave is a street that runs east and west, basically from the lake as far west to the expressway. And Armitage Ave is just a really fun, kind of eclectic area where you can dine, you can go shopping, you can get ice cream. One of the favorite places that I like to go to over there is obviously Ginny's Ice Cream, but there's also a place called Annette's, and you can get frozen ice here, you can get regular ice cream. And this is another one of those places that if you're gonna go, well, be sure to, make sure you have a little bit of time because you're gonna stand in line, because Annette's is something that is a frequent visit for a lot of Lincoln Park residents. Another newer thing that came to Lincoln Park, I think in the last year or so, is SPF pickleball. So pickleball has just been spreading throughout the country, and it's just kind of a huge hit these days. SPF pickleball is an indoor pickleball facility that's located, I believe it's on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park. So if you're into pickleball, you want to live close to a pickleball court or a variety of courts, well, SPF is going to be a good place for you. Also, if you want to take advantage of intramural leagues in Lincoln Park, you can do so. There's also different farmers markets. There's street festivals during the summer and the spring and the fall. You have the Diversity driving range if you're trying to kind of polish up your golf game. And then lastly, if you just want to check out some really, really cool architecture, well, the streets of Lincoln Park will surely impress. From old 19th century brownstones and gray stones to modern luxury single family homes to condos and everything in between. Lincoln Park in Chicago is going to give you so many things to do, literally you're never going to run out. So moving into transportation, which is our 4th out of 5 topics we're covering in this video today, let's talk a little bit about how you can get around with ease in Lincoln Park. So the transportation in Lincoln Park, it has a 94 out of 100 for a walk score, which is considered a walker's paradise. You have a 79 out of 100 for excellent transit for public transportation, and then your biker's score is 92 out of 100, considering it a biker's paradise. Some of your transits and subway stations in Lincoln Park, you have the Sedgwick station, you have North and Clybourne, you have Fullerton, you have Armitage, and then you also have the Diversity station. So one thing that I get from a lot of you that reach out to me that are wanting to live in Lincoln Park, maybe you're coming from a different city, is that you don't want to have a car. And I believe that Lincoln Park is probably one of the most walkable neighborhoods in all of Chicago. So if you're wanting to move here and you're not wanting to have a car, you want to rely on public transportation, walking, biking, well, Lincoln Park is going to be a perfect place for you for that. So last but not least, let's talk about schools, because if you're moving here and you have a family, you have children, well, schools are going to be a really important part of your decision-making process. And so there's some great public schools. There's also a variety of private schools that you can decide from. But for this video and this video alone, we're just going to take this data from greatschools.org. We're going to talk mainly about the elementary and the high school options from a public school standpoint. So coming in ranking at the top, you have a 10 out of 10, which is Prescott Elementary School, which is a public K through 8th grade. Next on the list, you have a 9 out of 10, which is Alcott College Prep, which is actually a pre-K through 8th grade. Then you have the 9 out of 10 for Mayer Elementary School, which is pre-K through 8th grade. You have Lincoln Elementary School at an 8 out of 10, that is kindergarten through 8th grade. And then LaSalle Elementary Language Academy, which is a 6 out of 10, and that is kindergarten through 8th grade. And then your main public high school, which comes in at a 9 out of 10, is Lincoln Park High School. Also, as I mentioned, you have some of the best private schools in the country. 2 notable ones are Latin and Francis W. Parker. So that does it for today's video. So what do you think? Is living in Lincoln Park still worth it in 2024? I'm gonna continue to say yes. I hope this information has been valuable for you to decide whether it makes sense for you and your family to live in Lincoln Park. But If this has been valuable, please do us a favor, share this with a friend, reach out if you have any questions. You can text the number on the screen. As I mentioned, our team has been selling real estate for the last 11 years. So if you're looking for a home here in Lincoln Park, feel free to just text that number and a team member and myself will get in touch within 24 hours. Additionally, as I mentioned before, I have a couple links in the description. I have the newsletter that we send out every 2 weeks, and I also have that collection of current homes for sale in Lincoln Park right now. So you can go down and check those out. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out or put it down in the comments. And I hope you enjoy this video. Please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Check out all of our other videos about Lincoln Park, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, peace.